Yeah, I know it's not quite on my bike. But I had a few problems the last time I took this setup out. I didn't pick up any volume. It didn't appear to be pairing the microphone and the camera together. And I'm due out on a ride tomorrow, so I thought I'll best do a double check and make sure everything's working. There is absolutely nothing worse in this life than getting home, sorting through your video clips and finding out something's gone wrong, because you can't replicate them. So here he is, walking my two dogs, and that's me, old man on a bike in Spain. The village I live in is just outside the bigger town of, or city of Gandia. We're very, very lucky here. We've got some amazing roads round and about. One of my friends. Now we're going cross country. It's just over the back of our houses. We have some beautiful countryside. Now, I've been making videos for one reason or one way or another now for over 12 years. When I went on my first decent European trip, I think there was a GoPro 3 in those days. I never did any narration, of course, and it was mainly for the benefit of my family and friends who wanted to see where I was going. Things have come on a bit since then. I've just swapped my GoPro for this Osmo Action 6 because it's supposed to be better in low light, even though I believe GoPros are coming out with a new series of action cameras, 3 of them, all now with the same similar 1-inch sensor. But the thing I really didn't get on with the GoPro was, one, if it overheated, the video would stop. But the sound would keep recording, which was a problem. Battery life wasn't particularly good. And their file system, dear oh dear, used to do my head in. There we go, let's see. The orange orchards. And as you can probably see, we've had some glorious weather, and just for a change, today it's overcast. Apparently we're in for a little bit of rain at 3 o'clock. I hope it's only for today, because I've got to be up at 5:30 tomorrow morning. I have to leave about 7:45 after walking the dogs and making breakfast, because our meet-up point with the lads, and this is the PD Wednesday Riders Group, the meet-up point is probably the furthest one I have to travel to. It's about 130 kilometres from my home. And my route planning app says hour and 16 or hour and 20 minutes. And you know it's going to take longer because I need to top up the tank before I get there. So that should be interesting. Now, I've lived out here for nearly, 7.5 years now. I think we're very lucky in this area. We have some amazing roads and scenery, most of which are relatively empty. Thankfully, it's a bit too far from the usual northern Spanish ports, Santander, excuse me while I come down the slope, etc. So we don't get inundated with the motorcycle tourist trade, which means we've basically got the roads to ourselves. I mean, we can go out sometimes and not see a car or another vehicle for over half an hour, and I don't think you can do that much in England these days. So I am now reached the grand old age of 68, and I have no idea where that time went. I've been riding bikes since before I was legally allowed to, i.e. of 14, 15. We lived in a little estate on the back end of Luton where we had a huge playing field and a youth club, a youth house, which also had its private land. So we used to use our field bikes. And then just up the road we had the beautiful Sundon chalk pits, quite well known in the area, and we'd spend weekends up there on anything with an engine. My younger brother, Dave, got so good at it, he actually joined a young person's motorcycle stunt team. It's a shame we didn't continue with that. But yeah, we had a decent childhood. Bikes have been a part of my life, most of my life, I would say, from those early days. I then got married. Of course, life, kids get in the way, don't they? Then when I joined the Air Force at 18. I came out 12 years later, and eventually we moved back to Luton, and I got a job. Sorry, we moved to Bedford, and I got a job in Luton. Now, we only had the one car, a Volvo Estate. It was a bit too juicy to run backwards and forwards every day, so I bought a bike. Now, many years ago, when I was 17, I took my motorcycle test and passed. And for those that can remember that far back, you used to get a slip of paper, which you had to send off with your paper licence, and then it would be annotated on the returning licence. Well, I never sent mine off, and you only had 6 months, so there's no record of me ever passing. So I had to start again on 125s. I had a Suzuki GS 125. I then bought a Honda 125 Twin. I took my test on that again, and then bought an XJ600, and I've had a whole fleet of bikes since then. I've also had an accident or two, like we all do. Had one bike written off, and I had one bike stolen out of my brother's garage while I was on holiday, and another one stolen out of their garden, which I managed to retrieve. When I moved to Beckenham after my divorce, my new wife absolutely hated motorcycles until we watched Wild Hogs, the film. And she said I'd get on one of them. So a couple of weeks later, a 1979 Heritage Springer Softail was sitting in my garage with only 2,400 miles on the clock. It sprouted a windscreen, a backrest and back rack, some heavy adjustable rear shocks, a hypercharger, some Vance and Hines pipes, a replacement for the standard carburetor. I got Mikuni, I think it's a 45 on there. And we travelled around a bit on that, and I even came over to Europe with it. I put a tow bar on it and actually did a run all the way through France, down into Spain to Tossa de Mar, then back up to Millau, where we stayed a few days, then back to Limoges, then back to England. And people take the piss out of Harleys, but you know what? Run like clockwork, no problems at all. I have had 2 other Harleys. Don't bark, darling. Come on. I have 2 other Harleys. 2009 Road King, green and cream, which I didn't keep too long. I part X'd it and bought a brand new Ultra Glide in 2014 when the Rushmore bikes came out. Now that was a beautiful bike. No matter what anyone says, I went all over the show, down to France. I came down to Barcelona Harley days on it, even got on their local TV. I also had an old XJ900, which I actually rode to my house here in Spain and back to England again. Oh my, I tell you what, I moan about all these electronic aids, but by God, I miss cruise control on that. And when I moved over to Spain, I did a lot of research. I wanted a bike with low maintenance, preferably with a shaft. I can't be having these bloody chains and maintenance and cleaning and adjusting. Sod that. Now, as you know, Harleys, belt drive, XJ900, shaft, and I had, before that, a Goldwing and a Valkyrie Interstate. Again, no chains. I did have an Aprilia, RSV, is it RSV? RS Media. Of course that had a chain. That put me off for life. Also, it wasn't the most reliable bike I had. I seem to remember I kept getting punctures with that. So when I came over here, I didn't want a big cruiser, I wanted a bike that's reliable. Now, unfortunately, all manufacturers these days seem absolutely obsessed with making bikes smaller and lighter when the world's population is getting bigger and heavier. So it was going to be an adventure bike. I didn't want a BMW, I'm sorry. I've got nothing against them. It's just that when I look at that old World War I style sticky out engine, I just think, we've come a long way since then. We don't need that. And the price, ridiculous price. Then there was a Triumph Tiger. At the time when I was looking at those, they had problems with being very top heavy and overheating. And then of course there's the Moto Guzzi's, which were a bit on the small side. Then, obviously they've come out with their adventure style bikes now. And I've given up hope, and then someone pointed me towards the Yamaha, the XT1200 Super Tenere, which I hadn't even noticed. I'd flown right under the radar. And I thought, yep, got on the forum, saw the mileage they were doing, how reliable they were, bit the bullet. We arrived here in December 2018, and I picked up my brand new Super Tenere January 2019. Now at nearly 50,000 kilometres. I wouldn't say the most comfortable riding. I've had to put a different seat on it. Bar risers, no bike is perfect. But reliability wise, touch wood, never ever ever had a thing go wrong with it. It's been absolutely brilliant. Right, that'll do for now. I'll check this out when I get in and make sure everything's working as it should. Charge the batteries up, ready for tomorrow morning.